is going over these tissues, because when we get to this system right here, which will be our first system, okay, we're going to actually see how these different classes of tissues work together to give us our systems. So our next tissue class that we are going to move into, connective tissue. Like the name implies, it is to help us connect something. Now, what gets really interesting about connective tissue, we have something called an extracellular matrix. Now, what does that term tell us? What does extra mean? Inside or outside the cell? Outside. So it's saying extracellular. So that means outside the cell. Now, matrix. Okay, the best example that I could probably explain for a matrix. Have you ever seen, like, for example, somebody make something with Jell-O and it sits out for a little while, and the Jell-O, it doesn't completely melt, but it gets kind of smushy for the Jell-O, okay? That's sort of what this matrix is going to be like, okay? It's going to be like a smushy Jell-O. That's the best way I can explain it. We're going to see that it's abundant. It's found in our organs. Well, it's going to be found in a lot of places. There are many diverse types of connective tissue. And of what we're going to see is the matrix for this. That matrix, that jello-y type stuff, we're going to find that it can be loose like that, like a loose gel. It can be semi, like cartilage. It can be hard, like bone. So it's a really cool makeup of this tissue. And the functions, yes, quite a few functions. This is how we're going to find this tissue in the body. We're going to see that embryonic connective tissue, the term they give it is mesenchyme. You'll see that in your textbook. This is what is going to help give rise to it in the body. Mucous connective tissues are from the embryonic development. As we become adults, the connective tissue, we're going to say that we have connective tissue proper. We have under this connective tissue proper one that's termed loose, one that's termed dense. Just like their name implies. Think about the smushy type of Jell-O, okay? That's our loose. We find areolar, loose connective tissue, adipose, and reticular. Dense, just like the name implies, looks like the Jell-O is more hardened, but it's not completely hard, okay? So we'll find dense, regular, collagenous, collagen, dense, regular, elastic fibers, dense, irregular, collagen, dense, irregular, elastic. this is where it gets interesting. I was going to say exciting because it's exciting for me, okay? Supporting connective tissue. When you think about this right here, okay, supporting connective tissue, would you think of this system, the bones, as being support? Yes, okay, because it's the point of attachment for your muscles, tendons, and ligaments, and gives us the ability to do all this stuff, okay? But notice I said the bones, tendons, ligaments, cartilage, all right, cartilage, okay? We know, however, we tend to, well, bone is hard, okay? Cartilage, hard, but not like bone, okay? But guess what? These are considered connective. So cartilage, and in the body, we have 3 types. Hyaline, like what you might find, like in the throat and in the esophagus and so forth. Fibrocartilage, what you would find in between vertebra, for example. Elastic, oh, he doesn't have an ear or nose, okay? But what you might find for the tip of the nose, the ear, okay? Bone, solid matrix. But trust me on this, amazing. Yeah. We have spongy bone, which would be the interior, where we're going to have our bone marrow. Compact is this hardened bone to the outer portion. We have fluid connective tissue. Blood. Yes. Did you know that blood is a tissue? Connective tissue, the difference is it flows, it moves. But talk about amazing, it's totally amazing. We have our red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets. It's given rise to by what we call hematopoietic tissue, all right? And that's our red marrow, yellow marrow. So if we look at these, the function of connective tissue. Remember how I mentioned last week when we had the kidney out and we were talking about how organized our bodies are, okay? So if you think about that, and if you think about the organs of our body, if you think about the kidneys, if you think about the heart, the liver, the stomach, all this sort of stuff, they're enclosed in what we call a capsule, okay? Like a kidney, for example. The working part of the kidney is to this inside. So this being held together is considered the capsule. So connective tissue encloses the organs and helps to separate them into these organs that they are. Connective tissues help connect one tissue to another. Tendons and ligaments, for example. They help for support and movement. Think about the cartilage and the bones. They help with storage. The fat cells, the adipose. They help to cushion and insulate. Very good for us, the fat cells. They help for transport, which would be the blood. and protection, which you guys will see in part 2 as being part of the immune system. This is where it kind of gets interesting to me. Specialized cells are going to be present, and they will help produce this extracellular matrix. Now, you're going to hear these terms a lot because these terms, blasts, sites, clasts. From now until you finish anatomy and physiology, those terms let you know at what stage a cell is. For example, a blast. A blast is an immature cell. The example that's being given, osteoblast. At this point, we haven't talked about it, but does anybody know what osteo refers to? Bone. Now, as we get more into it, okay, we'll learn what that osteoblast does. Because right now, you're seeing blast create the matrix, example, osteoblast. That doesn't mean a lot right now. So, a blast will be that immature cell, which will help give rise to the mature cell, which is the site, the CYTE. For example, they're giving chondrocyte. But if we continue with osteo, we also have an osteocyte, which would be the mature cell. And then a clast. This would be a cell that can break the material down. For example, an osteoclast. You all know that as we pretty much go through life, our bones are constantly remodeling, right? They build up, break down through our entire life, okay? So that is a cell that will break it down. Now, as we move through, we're going to see that in the matrix, we can have, now I'm not saying that these are present in every matrix portion of the body, but these can be present. They can have adipose, or what we know as fat cells. It's common in some of the connective tissue, like the dermis of the skin. So if we go back to looking at our skin, this down here, okay? This is representing what would be considered like connective tissue. And all of these little yellow dots representing the adipose, okay? All of this down here representing that connective tissue with the little yellow dots representing the adipose, okay?
They're both connected tissue.
And this would be connected to my epidermis of connective tissue. Yeah, so all these little yellow dots, okay, would be representing the adipose. So, it's very common in this, think about this organ, our skin.